Hey guys, so welcome back. Today we'll be going over long division problems. Always remember when you are doing long division, the first thing you need to do is to divide, then you're going to multiply, then you're going to subtract, and then you're going to bring the number down. Okay? Divide, multiply, subtract, and then bring the number down. All right, let's look at our first example. So we have 672 divided by 6. So you're going to have the 672 inside your division sign, and this is your dividend, and then your 6 out here. All right? So first thing we're going to do, 6 goes into 6 how many times? 1 time. So 6 times 1 is 6. And now I'm going to subtract. 6 minus 6 is 0, and now I'm going to bring down. I'm bringing down my 7. Right? 6 goes into 7 how many times? So meaning I have, let's draw some 6 here. Let's do 6 times 1, 6 times 2, and then 6 times 3. 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, and then 6 times 3 is 18. All right, so based on our little multiplication table here, the closest highest number that I can use, I can't use 6 times 12 because this is a little too high, but I can use 6 times 1, okay, because that's the closest highest number that I can use that can go into 7. So 6 goes into 7 1 time. I'm going to write a 1 right here. So now I'm going to multiply. 6 times 1 is 6, and now I'm going to subtract. So you're going to subtract 7 minus 6, that's going to give you 1, and then 0 minus 0, there's an imaginary 0 here, that's going to be 0. Now I'm going to bring down my 2. 6 goes into 12 how many times? Based on our chart here, 6 goes into 12 2 times. So I'm going to write a 2 up here. 6 times 2 is 12. And now I'm going to subtract. 12 minus 12 is 0. 672 divided by 6 is 112. 132 divided by 11. So my division sign, 132 in here, 11 out here. 11 goes into 1 how many times? It doesn't work. It's too small. 11 goes into 13 how many times? 1 time. So 11 times 1 is 11. I'm going to now subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2, and then 1 minus 1 is 0. Now, what's the next step? The next step is to bring down. We're bringing down the 2. So now 11 goes into 22 how many times now? 2 times. So 11 times 2 is 22. 22 minus 22 is going to be 0. So your quotient is 12. So 132 divided by 11 is 12. Let's try some larger numbers. Let's try 9,618 divided by 3. We're going to divide. And then your 3 is going to be out here. Right? So 3 goes into 9 how many times? 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. I'm going to subtract now. 9 minus 9 is 0. Now I'm going to bring down my 6. 3 goes into 6 how many times? 2 times. 3 times 2 is 6. Now I'm going to subtract. 6 minus 6 is 0. Now I'm going to bring down my 1. Okay. 3 goes into 1 how many times? 0 times. It's too small. So I'm going to write a 0 up here. 3 times 0 is 0. Now we're going to subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1. And now I'm going to bring down my 8. So 3 goes into 18 now how many times? 6 times. Good. So 3 times 6 is 18. And 18 minus 18 is going to be 0. So your quotient is 3,206. All right, what about 325 divided by 13? So 325 inside, 13 outside. 13 goes into 3 how many times? It doesn't work. It's 0. Technically, you can write a 0 up here, but I'm avoiding writing the 0 so that we don't get confused, okay? You can write an imaginary 0 to keep track if you want to, all right? So that doesn't work, but 13 goes into 32 now how many times? So let's write some 13s here so we can see how many times does 13 go into 32. So times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4. So 13 times 1 is 13. 13 times 2 is 26. 13 times 3 is 39. 13 times 4 is 52. Oh, the highest number I have is 52, 39. I need 32. So the closest highest number that I can use, this number is too high, is going to be 13 times 2, and that's going to be 26. So I'm going to write a 2 up here. 13 times 2 is 26. Now I'm going to subtract. All right, I'm going to go here. 32 minus 26. Minus 6, that's a little too small, so I'm going to borrow. This now becomes a 2. This now becomes a 12. So now 12 minus 6 is 6, and then you have 2 minus 2, that's going to be 0. So 32 minus 26 is 6. So now we're going to bring down my 5. 13 goes into 65 how many times? So let's finish this chart here. So we have 13 times 4, 52. Let's do 13 times 5 to see. 13 times 5, well, this is going to give us 65. So I can definitely use the 5 here. So 13 times 5, I'm going to put the 5 up here. 13 times 5 is 65. So your final answer is 0, and your quotient is going to be 25. So 325 divided by 13 equals 25. 735 divided by 35. So 735 on the inside, 35 on the outside. This is your divisor, and then your dividend is inside. 35 goes into 7 how many times? It's too small, it does not go into it. 35 goes into 73 now how many times? Let's write some 35s here to see. So let's do 35 times 1, times 2, times 3, and then times 4. 35 times 1 is 35. 35 times 2 is 70. 35 times 3, you're going to get 105. So the closest number that I can use is 35 times 2, because that's 70. This number is too high. 35 times 3, that's 105, so we do not want that. So I'm going to do 35 times 2. I'm going to write a 2 up here. 35 times 2 is 70. I'm going to write 70. And now I'm going to subtract. 3 minus 0 is 3. 7 minus 7 is 0. And like I said, you can write an imaginary 0 here. And then we now bring down the 5. So 35 goes into 35 now how many times? It goes into it 1 time. So I'm going to write a 1 up here. 35 times 1 is 35. So 35 minus 35 is 0. So your final answer, your quotient, is going to be 21. All right, let's try now 35,991 divided by 43. So we have 35,991 on the inside, 43 on the outside. 43 goes into 3 how many times? It does not go, it's too small. What about 43 goes into 35? That's still too small. So now let's do 43 goes into 359 how many times? All right, and let's see, because this is a large number, let's just try 43 times 5 to see what we get. This is going to be 215. Let's do 43 times 6. That's 258. And then we could still go some more. Let's try 43 times 7, 43 times 8, and then 43 times 9. Let's see what we get. 43 times 7 is going to be 301. 43 times 8 is going to be 344. And then 43 times 9 is 387. So the closest number that I can use is going to be 43 times 8, and that's 344. So I'm going to write an 8 up here. 43 times 8 is going to be 344. And remember, now we're going to subtract. So 9 minus 4 is 5, and then 5 minus 4 is 1. Now I'm going to bring down. 43 goes into 159 how many times? All right, so we did 43 times 5 is 215. So let's go lower now. Let's try 43 times 4. So 43 times 4 is going to be 172. That's still too high. So let's try 43 times 3. Let's do 43 times 3. And that's going to give us 129. 3. I'm going to write a 3 up here. 43 times 3 is 129. And now we're going to subtract. 9 minus 9 is 0. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then you have 1 minus 1, and that's also 0. All right. So now I'm going to bring down my 1. So now you have 301. So 43 times what is going to give me 301? 43 goes into 301 how many times? Times, oh, right here, 7 times, right? Because 43 times 7 is 301. I'm going to write a 7 up here. 43 times 7 is 301. And 301 minus 301 is going to be 0. All right, so your quotient is going to be 837. What about 44,469 divided by 61? So let's set up the problem. We have 44,469 inside, 61 outside. 61 goes into 4 how many times? It doesn't go. 61 goes into 44 how many times? It still doesn't go. It's too small. What about 61 going into 444? All right, let's see. So let's go. I'm going to go on this side. Let's try 61. Let's do 5. Let's start with 5 to see. This is a large number. So, and I'll do 61 times 7. 61 times 5 is 305. 61 times 6 is 366. And then 61 times 7 is 427. Let's try 61 times 8 to see. 61 times 8, that's going to give us 488. Yeah, so this is too big. This is too big. So the perfect highest number that I can use is going to be 61 times 7, and that's 427. So I'm going to write a 7 up here. 61 times 7 is 427. Now we're going to subtract 444 minus 427. 4 minus 7, can't do that. I'm going to borrow. This becomes a 3. This now becomes a 14. 14 minus 7 is 7. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. And then 4 minus 4 is going to be 0. Okay? So 444 minus 427 is going to be 17. Now we're going to bring down the 6. 61 goes into 176 now. How many times? So I know I have a 5 up here, but let's try 61 times 4. Let's go a little lower. That's going to be 294. 61 times 3. That's going to be 183. And then let's try 61 times 2. That's going to be 122. All right. So the closest number I can use, this number is too high. 183 is also too high. The closest number that I can use is going to be a 2 because that's 122. So I'm going to write a 2 up here. 61 times 2 is 122. And now we're going to subtract. 6 minus 2 is 4. 7 minus 2 is 5. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. Now I'm going to bring down my 9. 61 goes into 549 how many times? So I know I did 61 times 8. That was 488. So that's low. That's high and it's low. So let's try 61 times 9. Let's see what we get because we didn't do a 9 yet. So 61 times 9 is going to be 549. Oh, perfect. That's exactly what we need. Okay. So I'm going to write a 9 up here. So 61 times 9 is 549. So 549 minus 549 is going to be 0. So your quotient is 729. This is your quotient, okay? So that's all we have for today, and I will see you all in the next video. All right, bye.